Now, if you've been following the news here in Nigeria in the last 24 hours or so, you'll hardly need me to tell you that the choice of Senator Kashim Shettima is about as controversial a choice of running mate as Nigeria's ruling APC party and its presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, could have opted for, not because of his track record, but more because of his religion. In a country dominated by religious, ethnic and regional politics, where balance is crucial in keeping Nigeria from turmoil and polarization, adopting a Muslim ticket is seen by many as, to say the least, counterproductive. The move has caught many by surprise, both in and out of the party, with Christian organizations and civil society groups delivering angry, stark warnings and expressing huge disappointment, and the likes of the lawyer and leading member of the APC, Daniel Buwara, resigning altogether from the party in protest. You heard him earlier here on Arise Prime Time. Well, let's find out just how treacherous the political causeway in Nigeria has become as a result of this move by the ruling party. For assessment, I'm joined now in the studio by Arise analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper, Mahmoud JEGA, and by the journalist and policy strategist Waziri Adio, who is also, of course, an Arise News analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Let me come to you, Mahmoud JEGA, first. What's your reaction to the choice of a Muslim ticket by the APC?
Well, you see, although you earlier described it as coming as a surprise, personally, I don't think it came as a surprise, because it looks like the ground was being laid for that for several weeks since the APC convention. Even Chief Asiwaju Tinubu's choice of the placeholder running mate
gave some indication.
Gave some indication as to
where.
Well,
it was a surprise to some people, including Daniel Buwara.
So I was personally not surprised. I saw it coming, and could hear the discussions among APC leaders, and could have a sense of some of the electoral calculations that they were making. And therefore, in the end, I was not surprised that a decision like that was made on the choice of the running mate.
And Waziri Adio, how much does the choice of a vice presidential candidate affect the outcome of a presidential election in Nigeria?
To a very large extent, especially this contest that we're going to, which is going to be very competitive. Because the North is in play. Asiwaju is from the Southwest, Atiku is from the Northeast, and for you to win as a candidate, you need to get votes from the other parts of the country. So Asiwaju had to play in the North, and obviously his running mate has to come from the North, so there's no that is not surprising. But like Mr. Mahmoud JEGA said, I wasn't surprised. The moment Asiwaju emerged as the flag bearer of APC, I saw this coming, and I think I said it here some weeks ago that I don't think is the optimal thing to do. But I can understand that this is what they're going to do. And let me explain. Asiwaju is from the South. Anytime a Muslim emerges from the South, you are going to be in that dilemma. And if you are going to have a Muslim from the South, definitely that person will come from the Southwest. You have some marginal possibility that that person could come from Edo State. But Southwest is the only place in the South, where, you can have a Muslim as. So once you have that, then you have to think about, so how do you make this candidacy viable? And what you're going to be looking at is that, yes, you're going to pick somebody from the North. You have to pick which of the zones from the North. Then you have to choose the religion. But the regional balance definitely is a given. So that is not a problem. But the problem, though, is that if he picks a Christian from the North, as many people have said, that would have been ideal. And that would have also address, some of the stereotypes about our politics. You have a Christian from the North, a Muslim from the South. You know, what we usually talk about is, you know, Muslim
the other way
North,
around.
You know, yeah. So that would have been ideal. But would that winning the election? I don't think so. Yes, you know, people talk about religious balance and all of that. He has fulfilled the regional balance, right? And by the way, no law, as Bola himself said, no law has been broken. But whether that can win you, it can cost you the election. You know, the problem with picking a Christian from the north is not what APC is saying. It's not what Tinubu himself is saying. It's the fact that if you are picking a Christian from the north, that person will be a minority. So you end up picking two minorities. Because the Muslim from the south will be a minority. The Christian from the north will be a minority. It will be a deal, like I said, but can that give you the electoral leverage that you want?
That's a very good point. Yeah. And on that basis, Mahmoud JEGA, do you think Mr. Tinubu has been poorly advised or well advised? Or has he in fact touched something that is reassuringly, like he was saying, reassuringly rational and long overdue, which is that Nigerians are in some ways heartily sick of it all. I mean, all this zoning and federal character and ethnic and religious balance, and they're sick enough for it not to matter in the 2023 ballot.
Well, you see, there are too many things to balance all at once. There is a region, there is a religion. Some are talking about gender balancing, some are talking about generational balancing, that the candidates are too old. And you can only balance some things at a time. And as you said earlier, Oga Charles, when you opened this program, for a candidate, the most important thing is to win the election. All other things will be added on to it, because if you win all the grievances that people have, you have a way. So, Asiwaju must have sat down and calculated that, look, what is the electoral formula that could get me to win this election? If I can get the Southwest, if I can get the Northwest, and if I can get the Northeast, and some chunk of the North Central, that is enough to win the election. You know, people who are saying, the perception is, since Tinubu is of the Muslim faith, the people of the North, that's the Muslim majority in the North, what is your problem? You are represented on the ticket by a man who is of the same Muslim faith. The problem is that they themselves do not see it that way. The way they see it is that Asiwaju is a Yoruba man. We have made a big concession to the South and to the Yorubas by they don't really see the religious element.
Yes,
they see the regional and tribal element. And not only have we conceded the ticket to him, but he is also relying on these two zones to produce most of the votes that could carry him to the presidency, because as we know, APC's strongest bases are in the Northwest and in the Northeast. Therefore, in order to solidify support there, because the biggest risk will be to alienate the millions of votes, not only them turning against him, even if they don't turn against him, but they don't turn out in enough numbers to guarantee him victory. That's a big loss. So that's the calculation. How does he maintain the overwhelming support that APC has enjoyed in the Northwest and in the Northeast, and hopefully also add his own Southwest base and get whatever chunk he can get from the other zones? That is the electoral calculation. And to him, it was worth taking this risk. Of course, he knows there will be backlash, there will be protest votes. Some people may resign, as Mr. Bola did. But if in the end he wins the election, he will say it was well worth the risk.
Well, I mean, let me bring in that bit that you talked about, Daniel Bola, who was here earlier, who reacted quite strongly to this Muslim ticket, you know, resigning from the APC, some leading Christian organizations calling on their followers not to vote for the APC. I mean, what's your assessment of that broader reaction?
It should also be expected. No matter what Tinubu has done, there will always be backlash, and there will be consequences for him. If he had picked a a Christian from the north, some people too will have reacted. If you have picked a Muslim, the same reaction,
but maybe not as much as this, because that would have been perceived as balance. I mean, the balance that everybody's talking about.
It depends on how, people protest in different ways. Some people protest loudly, some people protest quietly, and they allow their votes to speak for them, right? So some of these reactions, I'm sure he looked at all the sides
and made a decision.
And he thinks that this is a calculated risk that is ready to make. By the way, we also need to, though the times have changed, but we also need to bring some historical background into this. Everybody talks about 1993 when Abiola ran with King Gibe on a Muslim ticket, and of course, there were all kinds of arguments that Nigerians were tired of the military, so they would just vote for anything presented
Daniel
to them.
Bola said they would have voted for a list.
That is true. but the point I want to make is that, they presented a Muslim ticket in 1993, and he won. And he won. They ran against Tofa, who's from Kano. They defeated Tofa in Kano, right? So, but if we go back a little bit, the balance we've always been talking about in this country mostly used to be regional. Religion came as a new development, right? If you go back to 1979, right, Awolowo ran a very risky, ticket. He was from the present Southwest, right? His running mate, Philip Adio, was from the Southeast. So he actually presented a South, if you can call it that, ticket. Both of them were Christians. And you know what? They got 4.9 million votes. Shagari that won got 5.6 million votes. You understand? Zeke got 2.8 million votes. And he also ran with a Christian. Ishaya Audu from Kaduna was a Christian. Zeke
That's a very
was
important historical perspective.
So, but along the line, certain things happened in the politicization of religion, which we need to take cognizance of. We cannot wish it away. So the point is that Mr. Tinubu has taken this risk, and he believes that religion doesn't matter to Nigerians. And possibly because he comes from the Southwest. I'm from the Southwest. I'm a Muslim, though from a mixed religious background. In the Southwest, religion is not a factor.
Yeah.
So maybe he believes that it's also not a factor to the rest of Nigerians. That is to be tested at the polls. He might be right, he might be wrong. Right. So all these reactions should be expected. People will respond. But the real response is at the polls.
Yes.
That's when we know that whether Nigerians, we really care about religion as a deciding factor, or we care about other things.
But we're also hearing Mahmoud JEGA that it's not just the sort of people like Daniel Bola and so on. That there seems to be considerable disquiet amongst the governors of the APC, and these are people who are well known, I mean, pretty prominent in the party, and also very important when it comes to the delivery of votes and so on. I mean, does this suggest that the APC is likely to be divided going into the elections, or can they come together in spite of this chasm that's been created by this Muslim?
I have seen those reports. We will only see in the next few days whether they are true. Personally, I doubt if those stories are true. Look, in the end, you can only pick one person. Unlike the situation in PDP, where maybe it was a mistake on the part of the presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, he set up a committee of 18 and said, advise me as to my running mate. And as we had, 14 of them voted to recommend Governor Wike, but he didn't pick that, he picked Governor Okoa. So there was a clear alternative that he could have picked, which was recommended by the majority of members of the committee. In the APC, there was no such thing. Asiwaju didn't form any committee of the sort. And there is no person now you can point out in APC and say, this is the person he should have picked in order to address. So many governors in the north and other people also wanted to be the running mate. So I don't see them now coalescing and say because he chose Kashim Shettima. Well, even if he didn't choose Kashim Shettima, if he chose Nasiru El-Rufai, if he chose Ganduje, If he chose Badaru in Jigawa, or he chose the governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, or he chose any other person,
he wouldn't have chosen the other one.
Well, so there will still be a problem. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's only one person.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got less than a couple of minutes to go. I wanted to bring this in, Waziri, because beyond religion, Senator Shettima is not from the larger northern ethnic group, such as the Hausa Fulani, whose support is seen as vital in Nigeria's sort of ethnically charged elections. So what sort of value does he bring to the table in that respect?
Okay, even that stuff about is not from the larger group in the larger group, the largest group in the north can be interrogated, right? There are three zones in the north, right? The northeast, the northwest, and the north central. The northeast and the northwest happen to be the strongholds of APC, right? The northwest had produced presidents and vice presidents for some time, right? So Yaradua was from there. President Buhari is from there. The vice president Namadi Sambo is from there. Shagari is from there. The only slot that the Northeast has had is Atiku being vice president, right? So the same way there's agitation for that the Southeast has been marginalized, that's the same way.
You can make the same
argument in the Northeast. Right. So it ticks that box. And another thing that Tinubu is trying to do is that the North is supposed to be the base of Atiku. He wants to make a play in that base. He wants to make sure that, you know, he has somebody that they can dilute whatever Atiku will get from the North. Yeah. Apart from
so
that,
it makes political sense. Really,
he's also well educated.
Right. Very briefly, because we're almost out of time. We've got 20 seconds.
You know, in terms of political culture, really, there is no difference between the Kanuri and the Hausa Fulani that people are saying. In terms of political culture, the choice of Shettima will be seen by northern Muslims as representing them across the board, all the way from Sokoto to Borno. There is no such difference. After all, when Gideon Oka was expelling some states from Nigeria, he went from Borno to Sokoto. All of them were expelled together.
Listen, gentlemen, I'm always so enlightened when I talk with you. You, Waziri Mahmoud JEGA, thank you very much indeed. Waziri Adio, thank you ever so much. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.